graduated from the City College of New York with a BBA degree, and he spent his entire career in public accounting. He was at the Bank of America, and he was a senior vice president and portfolio manager in the asset-based lending division. He has many accomplishments. Among them, he set foot in every state of the union. Right, Art?
That's correct.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. He moved to Palm Isles in 2016.
No,
Yeah,
2005.
2005. Okay, 2005.
Oh,
Art, you're on.
okay. Oh, welcome, baseball fans. The topic is the golden age of baseball. And the period between 1947 and 1957 was the golden age of baseball for New York City. New York City had three teams: the Dodgers, the Giants in the National League, and the Yankees in the American League. I agree. The period between 1920 to 1960 was the golden age of baseball for all baseball. It was the time following the dead ball era, which was before World War I, but also prior to the modern era, which is considered to be after World War II. So we're going to talk first about New York City. The three teams in New York were all distinct. Each team had a fabled history. Each team had loyal and highly knowledgeable fans rooting for them. In the years between 1947 to 1957, except in 1948 when the Cleveland Indians won the World Series beating the Boston Braves. So from 1947 to 1957, one or two of the teams from New York City played in the World Series. To understand what was going on with the dominance of the three New York teams and what was meant to be to the New York fans, it is important to know that it might be still going on today if the Dodgers and Giants did not decide to move to the West Coast. Walter O'Malley, the Dodgers owner, said, "If they had only given me the downtown Brooklyn location near the Long Island Railroad station, I would have stayed." Just to put it in perspective, that is now the location of the Barclays Center, home of the NBA Brooklyn Nets. So it was a workable alternative, but it didn't happen. And the Giants had been offered a location over the Long Island Railroad yards around 42nd Street and the West Side Highway in Manhattan. So that didn't work either. Mel Allen for the Yankees, Red Barber for the Dodgers, and Russ Hodges, and later the Yankees. Red Barber was both with the Dodgers and the Yankees. And Russ Hodges for the Giants, in their non-New York Southern voices, provided perspective explaining the art of the craft and the craft of baseball. Going, going, gone, a Ballantine blast, a White Owl wallop from Mel Allen, Oh Doctor from Red Barber, and the Giants won the pennant, the Giants won the pennant. And the E lights up in the Chesterfield sign from Russ Hodges when an error was made on the field. Subway Series, wait till next year, that day. The shot heard around the world was heard. The Duke Snyder, Say Hey Willie, Willie Mays, the Yankee Clipper, Joe DiMaggio, Oishk, Carl Erskine, Campy, Roy Campanella, Preacher Rose, Sal the Barber, Sal Magley, Mandrake, the Magician, Don Mueller, Blackie, Don Black, Whitey Ford, Skoog, Carl Furillo, Pee-wee Reese, Nuke, Don Newcomb, Yogi Berra, Ellie Elston Howard, Old Reliable Tommy Henrik, the Old Redhead Red Barber, Scooter Phil Rizzuto, Mickey Mantle, were just some of the characters of the period. You could go from the butcher shop to the candy store to the laundromat and not miss a pitch. It would all be on the radio and you could hear it. The sound of New York City baseball was always on. What happened? It was August 5th, 1955, when the Brooklyn Dodgers were in first place, 14 games ahead, and driving for their third pennant in 5 years, when an article in the New York Times said that the National League had given permission to the Dodgers to play 8 games in Jersey City, New Jersey. From Ebbets Field on the way home from the ballpark, going east. The traffic going west was bumper to bumper. Why? It was the 20,000 people, that's 20,000 people, who were going home from Roosevelt Raceway. It hit O'Malley that he wanted those people to go to Ebbets Field. Some people stopped going to Ebbets Field because of the hoodlums and purse snatchers. The ballpark was in need of repairs, the cost was high and never ending. There was a lot of drinking, narrow aisles, the seats were too close, and there was a rough bunch there. So all the warning signs were there. On the Giants side, attendance in 1956 at the Polo Grounds was 629,179. Enough, said Horace Stoneham, the owner of the Giants. He jumped and was not pushed to move to San Francisco with the Dodgers, moving to Los Angeles. After the last game at the Polo Grounds, three musicians and the visiting team bullpen played the Giant Victory March. We're calling all fans, all you Giant ball fans, going places round the bases, cheer for your favorites out at Coogan's Bluff. Come watch those Polo Grounders do their stuff. That was the end of that. The economic impact. Between the two teams, 1,700,000 fans went to the games for the year. Nearly one half paid the 30-cent subway or bus fare. Newspaper sales, restaurants, hotels, trains, planes were all adversely affected. Merchants in the area of the Polo Grounds and Ebbets Field were now out of business. Writers and photographers who covered the Giants and Dodgers were now out of work. The fan impact. Some would switch their allegiance to the Yankees, not me. Others would later become fans of the New York Mets, me. Some would become interested in other sports, Knicks, Rangers, Islanders, football Giants, football Jets. Some stayed with the Giants in San Francisco and the Dodgers in Los Angeles as fans. The announcers, Mel Allen, Red Barber, Russ Hodges, yes. Also, there was Al Helfer, Ernie Harwell, a young Vince Scully, who was a protege of Red Barber, Connie Desmond, and the only authentic New York accent was Frankie Frisch, the Fordham Flash, whose legendary phrase was, "Oh, those bases on balls." Others included Jim Woods, Joe Garagiola, Kurt Gowdy, Andre Baruch, and Lorraine Day, who did the Giants after-game show. Well, she was Leo DeRoche's wife. Remember Wilson, Glickman, and Lee on the radio that did recreations of the day's Dodger games. Ward Wilson, Marty Glickman, Bert Lee Jr. Happy Felton, who was described as a bespectacled fat man in a Brooklyn Dodger baseball suit, broadcast the Knothole Gang. The Knothole Gang show before every Dodger game. Happy did not know much about baseball, but he had the ability to put it over and to entertain. How did you get to the game? Who's been to Ebbets Field? Okay. All right, by subway? If you go by subway, people remember taking the Brighton Beach Express BMT train, going from bright daylight to the tunnel, before it went outside again into the Prospect Park station near the ballpark. Who's been to Yankee Stadium? Old, new, reconstructed, okay? By subway? Many will remember sitting on the left side of the Woodlawn IRT so they could see batting practice when the train emerged from the subway tunnel to approach the 161st Street station at Yankee Stadium. Who's been to the Polo Grounds? Okay. By subway. Everybody go by subway. Many would take the shuttle train at 167th Street station of the Woodlawn IRT. The next stop after going north and then just 3 stops to the Polo Grounds going south and west. At the Jerome Avenue station on the shuttle, they could see Yankee Stadium. I have mentioned before that when the train passed the Jerome Avenue station to go into the tunnel, there was also an entrance to that station from Anderson Avenue, which is up above. I lived in that neighborhood, and one of my public school classmates lived in the building above the train station. When the train came every 20 minutes, the house would shake. It was like the Woody Allen movie Annie Hall, where his uncle, Nichols, lived inside the roller coaster in Coney Island. And it would go by and it would... Okay, you could also take the D train either north or south on the IND line to the 155th Street station right in front of the boulevard. History from 1947 to 1957 in a nutshell. Edmund Hillary climbed Mount Everest. Roger Bannister ran the 4-minute mile. Clothes were first mass-produced. Citation won the racing's Triple Crown. Albert Einstein and George Bernard Shaw died. Cool jazz and rock and roll dominated all music. Television antennas were installed on millions of rooftops. There were 15 million homes with TVs in 1952, 26 million in 1954, and 41 million in 1957. Suburban housing developments flourished. The Yankees were left as the only New York City baseball team. Okay, accomplishments for the New York City players. In 1954, the top 3 of 4 home run hitters were Gil Hodges, uniform number 14, Willie Mays, uniform number 24, and Duke Snider, uniform number 4. Coincidence? All the numbers ended in 4. Eddie Lopat, number 31, spun slow curves over the corner of the plate for the Yankees. Jackie Robinson, number 42, the scrowl, the swing, the slide, the stolen base. Joe DiMaggio, number 5, boldly was noble, gliding after the white sphere in the green pasture of the outfield. He did retire in 1951. Roy Campanella, number 39, brawny and beaming. Leo DeRocha, number 2, foul-mouthed, frenzied, jutted gore, scheming to win. Carl Furillo, number 6, taking charge in right field in front of the Abe Stark sign that said, "Hit this sign and win a suit." Preacher Rowe, number 28, a cowboy in a Dodger uniform, wiping the perspiration into a spitball. Casey Stengel, number 37, juggling, jawing, having fun, and winning. Monty Irvin, number 20, solidly professional. Allie Reynolds, number 22, flaming the ball in starting, relieving, and winning. Pee Wee Reese, number 1, a Kentucky General shortstop. Willie Mays, number 24, losing his cap and making the basket catch. Johnny Mize, number 36 with the Yankees, digging in and pounding the ball. Billy Cox, number 33, sad and skinny with a magic glove at third base. Now we can go to ancient history, 1920 to 1960, the golden age of baseball. Most of the golden age was captured for history on black and white TV. The first game broadcast in color was in 1951. It was not until the mid-1960s that all baseball games were broadcast in color. I always go back to what I grew up with. Radio, not television. I did not have a TV until 1951. Actually, after Bobby Thompson's home run, which I listened to on the radio. No air conditioning at home, and if you had a car, I didn't have a car until 1963. No Novocaine when you went to the dentist. That's for Steve back then. Who are the players? Lou Gehrig, Ty Cobb, Ted Williams, Hank Greenberg, Rogers Hornsby, Babe Ruth as hitters, Lefty Grove, and Dizzy Dean as pitchers, who both won over 30 games in the early 1930s. Then later in the era included Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Ernie Banks as hitters, and Bob Gibson and Warren Spahn as pitchers. Dominant teams. In the American League was the New York Yankees, who won 29 pennants and 20 World Series between 1918 and 1964. Next in line were the Detroit Tigers that won 4 pennants during that time. In the National League, it took 3 clubs combined to win 27 pennants, 9 each by the St. Louis Cardinals, Brooklyn Dodgers, and New York Giants. The Cubs had 6 pennants during that period, and then none until 2016. Travel and postseason. Teams traveled primarily by train during this period, maybe stopping off at saloons and speakeasies in between games, mingling with fans. Today, travel is by specially configured aircraft to allow for the ball players' comfort. Most of the players worked at other jobs in the off-season. Most did not have college degrees, so jobs were manual rather than office type. The Mets had a player named Richie Hebner from the Boston area that spent his off-season as a gravedigger. Today the players mostly, that's true, by the way. Today the players mostly kept in shape by working out on a regular basis during the off-season. All right, 1920 to 1946. From 1900 to 1919, pitches threw 300 to 400 innings a season. Some outfields did not have fences. They used the same ball over and over again, so by the 7th inning, the ball was all beat up. Teams hit home runs every 5 or 6 games. Fielders left their gloves on the field between innings. I remember that, seeing that in the 50s. I remember that still in effect during the 50s was, in the 50s, minorities were not allowed to play. Then for the period 1920 to 1946, Babe Ruth ushered in the long ball era, where teams averaged 5 runs a game, and the earned run average soared to 5+ a game. As an example, today, Jacob deGrom was a pitcher for last season for the Mets, who had a 1.70 ERA. Comparatively speaking, during the period 1960 to 1968, the pitching ERA began to below 3 runs a game for both leagues. Then the mound was lowered to 10 inches in 1969 to generate offense. Also, the bullpen concept had not been thought through yet. During World War II, the St. Louis Browns had a pitcher named Sigmund Jakuki and also a one-arm pitcher named Pete Gray. Then from 1947 to 1959, Jackie Robinson integrated baseball. At the beginning, most teams only had 1 or 2 minority players. The Yankees' first African-American player was Elston Howard, and he debuted on August 14, 1955. The Red Sox were the last team to have an African-American player. Pumpsie Green on July 21st, 1959. I remember seeing Satchel Paige pitch for the St. Louis Browns in person in 1957, and he was 47 years old at the time. Again, comparatively, from the period 1969 to 1976, the sport began to assume its current form. From all over, and people who were from all over the players, and offensive players like speed guys, power guys, etc. Closers like Rollie Fingers, teams like the Big Red Machine, the Cincinnati Reds, or Redlegs as they were known at the time, during that time also. And stars mailing in season, not really playing up to what their contract asked them to do, like Bobby Bonds, Dick Allen, and George Foster. Also, when managers foolishly affected games with too much hit and run and too much reckless steals. Leadoff hitters were chosen for speed and not for the ability to get on base. Starters threw too many innings. It ruined Catfish Hunter's arm under the managership of Billy Martin with the A's. Relievers burned out with too many innings pitched. The baseball writers. Unlike today's baseball journalism, the 1920s writers were involved with game description and sharing the personalities of heroes with an audience willing to buy 3 or 4 newspapers a day to fill their baseball appetite. In the 1950s, Mickey Mantle, Whitey Ford, Billy Martin, and others did a lot of things off the field: drinking, women, gambling, etc. That was not reported to the public as a custom of the trade. Today, with TV and social media, every move of the player is recorded. All right, African Americans finally make it to the major leagues, the Jackie Robinson saga. The most important was Jackie Robinson, who was brought up to the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947. Robinson was a star athlete at UCLA, an officer in the United States Army, and a shortstop with the Kansas City Monarchs of the Negro National League. Robinson was a black pioneer. As more than 60% of Major League players were Southern-born, the words of Branch Rickey to Robinson were to turn the other cheek. On the signing of Robinson, Rickey said, "I signed Robinson for just one reason, to win a pennant. I'd play an elephant with pink horns if he could win the pennant." The first pennant that Jackie Robinson helped win was the 1946 pennant won by the Montreal Royals, the Dodgers AAA farm team. When Robinson first reported to the Dodgers, Eddie Stanky, an Alabama-born player, told Robinson, "I don't like you, but we will play together and get along because you are my teammate." There was an incident at Cincinnati Crosley Field where a death threat was issued that a marksman located in the apartment houses beyond the outfield would shoot Robinson. The FBI went through the area before the game and found it was clear and told Robinson so. Robinson hit a home run, and the on-deck batter was Cal Abrams, who was Jewish. When he shook Robinson's hand at home plate, he told Robinson to go quickly to the dugout, because if they ever wanted to get both of us, that was the best time. Robinson grew up in the slums of Pasadena, California. He was smart enough to know that the paths would be tough to break ground in race relations and baseball. Branch Rickey snarled, shouted, and cursed. Rickey was the snarling waitress, the bigoted sports writer, the prejudiced hotel clerk, the profane and biased ball player. Rickey told Robinson, "Not only would you go on trial, but all of black society will be on trial. You must fight back, you must turn the other cheek." Robinson received a $3,500 bonus and a $600 a month to play for the Montreal Royals in 1946 and to be with the Dodgers in 1947. Rickey was called an opportunist. Some say he was ultra-liberal, others praised him for his courage and for his sincere desire to solve sociological problems. Robinson was inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1962, just 15 years after his entrance into Major League Baseball in 1947. The Willie Mays saga. The Giants needed a first baseman from their Sioux City farm team in the middle of the season, and it was hard to find one. The only outlet would be the Negro Leagues. So as I mentioned last year, the Giants' head scout was Jack Schwartz, not the Jack Schwartz here at Palmanos, another Jack Schwartz, and he had gotten a call from another scout that the first baseman on the Birmingham Black Barons could help the Sioux City team. But there was an outfielder there that could also help. The Boston Braves, and that was Willie Mays. The Boston Braves were already interested and offered the Birmingham owner $7,500 and $7,500 more if they kept the player for 30 days, which the Braves turned down, because when the players came back after not sticking with the team, they are not happy campers. The Giants offered $10,000 for Mays, and the deal was made. Mays never played in Sioux City because they really did not want a black player. Mays was sent to the Giants' Trenton, New Jersey team in the Interstate League. Mays said it was a lot like Jackie Robinson breaking into the major leagues. He stayed in segregated hotels, was picked up and dropped off before and after the games. He said he did not worry about that because he wanted to play so bad. He took the team from being in third place to finishing first. The next year, he was moved to the Giants' top minor league team in Minneapolis. He was hitting .477, and he was called up to the Giants. They directed him to the Giants' 42nd Street office, and he showed up with bats in one hand and a bag with his glove and spikes in the other. He was also wearing an unusual cap. It had a bow in the front and a belt in the back, and it was plaid colored. They bought him some clothes and sent him to Philadelphia, where the Giants were playing the next game. He wore the new clothes, but he was also wearing the funny cap when he arrived in Philadelphia. We all know the story about him going hitless in his first 12 Major League games. He cried in the dugout, and he asked DeRocher, the manager, to send him back to Minneapolis. DeRocher said, "You are my center fielder," and he stayed for the next 22 years. Unlike many players in today's game, he was never an eye guy. He was great for the morale of the club, trying to win for his team. The Elston Howard saga. 8 years after Jackie Robinson had broken the color line, Elston Howard joined the Yankees in spring training in 1954. The Yankees sent him back to the minor leagues with the idea of making him a catcher. He came back the next year, having been the MVP of the league. The players said, no matter what kind of spring he has, he's staying. He can help us. Here was a man with the antithesis of Jackie Robinson. Robinson was a liberal and Howard was a conservative. Robinson was flash and fire, and Howard was steady and social, a non-complainer. Casey Stengel early characterized Howard, and when we finally got an African-American player, I get one who can't run. Howard played the outfield, first base, and catcher. It took him 7 years to become the regular Yankees catcher. It was not the color of his skin, but it was Yogi Berra until he retired. That was the roadblock. Okay, afterwards. Duke Snyder became a broadcaster for the Montreal Expos, and he passed away in 2011. Pee Wee Reese went back to Kentucky and passed away in 1999. Billy Cox is gone. Jim Gilliam is gone. Gil Hodges is gone. Jackie Robinson is gone. Jerry Coleman, who became the broadcaster of the San Diego Padres, is now also gone. Richie Allen became a broadcaster for the Philadelphia Phillies. He's gone. Phil Rizzuto became a broadcaster of the Yankees. He's gone. Tony Kubek became baseball's Game of the Week announcer and is retired and is now 84 years old. Eddie Lopat is gone. Willie Mays is now 87 and has been designated a legend by both the Giants of San Francisco and the New York Mets. Joe DiMaggio is gone, but he made a lot of money praising an automatic coffee maker and hyping the image of the New York Savings Bank. I guess that was the bank in New York. Johnny Mize is gone, but he did brood about not being elected to the Hall of Fame. Sal Magli is gone after returning to Niagara Falls, New York, where he was born, and the Sal Magli Stadium was named after him. Carl Furillo is gone after working as the night watchman after baseball. Leo DeRocher is gone after retiring to Palm Springs, California, where he was known to tell old baseball stories. Cal Abrams is gone after working for the OTB in Manhattan. Billy Martin is gone. Monty Irvin is gone after working as an assistant to the Commissioner of Baseball, and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1973. Ebbets Field is now an apartment house complex. Just behind it is the Jackie Robinson Intermediate School. The Polo Grounds is a housing development with a playground named for Willie Mays. Yankee Stadium in the neighborhood where I grew up was torn down and is now a parking lot. The new Yankee Stadium was built on the land of the old McCombs Dam Park, where there was once track meets and sandlot football and baseball games. Finally, never again will there be a time like those 11 New York City baseball seasons from 1947 to 57. There was smallness and richness of 8 teams in the league. There were 3 distinctive teams in 3 different boroughs of New York City. The concentration of talent came from players returning from the war and blacks pioneering their way into the national games. Things to remember: the Schaefer beer sign atop the Ebbets Field scoreboard, the Chesterfield sign in the Polo Grounds that lit up its H for a hit and an E for an error, the Ballantine beer sign on the scoreboard at Yankee Stadium. Remember the bleacher lines? I do, and it was 60 cents to get in, and you never knew whether you would get in or not. Graduation presents at those times were tickets to Yankees, Dodgers, and Giants games. DiMaggio retired and Koufax broke in. Bobby Thompson hit the home run, Lavagetto doubled, Mays first came up. These are the markers and memories. It will never be the same, but it will also be the time to remember as we did today. Thank you. Questions, comments? Okay, Earl.
Art, it was a very good presentation, but you didn't mention the salaries that these guys were paid.
Right.
I remember when Jackie Robinson, 1950s, was traded to the New York Giants, he was making $25,000.
He wouldn't go, he wouldn't do it.
Pardon?
He didn't do it, he wouldn't do it.
No, he wouldn't, he
Retired.
retired.
No, 5,000 was a lot of money those days.
25,000
And
was,
Willie Mays, I think, made $100,000, that was it. Babe Ruth, I don't know, Babe Ruth may have made $100,000, but that was it.
they were not overpaid.
Ted Williams too, yeah. Bad shortstops today make $3-4 million a year, yeah.
Well, what do you, I feel that my interest in baseball decreased when the effort is expanded to so many teams and everything interchanged, you couldn't know who's on the team anymore.
Okay.
To the steroid epidemic, and then the only purpose they play now is we all stand there and whoop, 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 and they all laugh all the way to the back, the money making millions of dollars sitting on the bench.
Well, that's what it's all about. TV became the funding of baseball that enabled these players to get these large amount of monies, which changes the
There's so
game.
many teams, there's not
Right.
enough talent around to
That's
pull
true,
the team.
that's true.
And they're mediocre.
And like I said, bad shortstops make $4 million a year.
They wanted to pass three things, but the players refused, I believe. One was that if the batter is hit, he goes to third base. If you want to walk someone, you say, I'm walking him, not staying there for one pitch and wait and throw another pitch and wait. Walk them with that. But they refused to change the rules in any way and only have 3 pitchers per game, not 25 pitchers. He's my beginner, he's my third pitcher, he's my
Right.
5th pitcher, my 10th pitcher.
That's
Gets to
right.
a point where,
Right.
forget it, you go fall asleep watching it.
I assume you rooted for the Phillies or the A's or someone like that, right? Philadelphia? Yeah. Okay.
Then at that time they had natural talent. Today, all kinds of super Bill Hull, this,
true.
that, the other, you know.
Okay, just,
I just wanted to say, I was a big Dodger fan
yes.
in the 40s, I'm a little older. And we got in for half a buck to the bleachers, and often it would be cut in half on special days. I also want to mention that Yogi Berra lived in New Jersey,
Yes.
and there was a connection between him and Montclair State Teachers College, State College, University.
Right.
There's a Yogi Berra Stadium there,
Yep.
and a terrific museum for him.
Yeah.
And until about a year ago, if you went to the museum, half the time he would come wandering in and talk to everybody. The kids loved him.
I thought you would tell me something good, like he was a patient of yours.
My patients were all disabled, so.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes,
One game,
Jules is next, yeah.
If you go on the computer and look up Black History, Jackie Robinson visits City College,
Oh,
you will see Jackie talking to our group.
is
And I'm
that
in the
right?
first row
Yeah,
with Honor glasses. I had the pleasure and honor of meeting him in 1946 when he played for Montreal. My cousin George, who was a fantastic ball player and had an operation, he could not play Major League ball because of it.
Where is it?
Played at Malcolm Pants at
Yes.
George Washington High School in NYU. And Al came back from the Navy and played for Montreal. So George, my cousin George called up let's go over and watch him play a doubleheader. We went over there, raining like hell, and we went into the clubhouse to meet Al and talk to him. I asked Al, can I meet Jackie? He says, of course. And he had this very heavily muscled,
Yes.
handsome guy in his skivvies introduced me to him. And I'm 16 years old, I'm just a kid.
yeah.
And I said, Mr. Robinson, I'm looking forward to the time when you come, next year when you come up to the Dodgers and help them win the pennant.
Right.
And it was a big thrill for me, it really was.
Yeah, my wife in the back will verify that before he died, we went to the movies in Greenwich, Connecticut, and he was there at the movies. Okay, Clark.
You know, you talk about today they count the pitches.
Yes,
And when they get to a certain point, they pull the pitcher out.
Right.
Whether he's winning or losing,
Right.
whatever it is. You want to injure his elbow. I remember as a kid, the pitchers, unless they were doing badly, they just finished their games.
Right.
11 innings, 12 innings, didn't make any difference. And they pitched a long time.
And you know what, there was no Tommy John surgery, so these people, you're next.
Jackie Robinson, if World War II didn't happen, in 1944, he was going to win the 100-meter dash
Correct.
and the broad jump, they call it in those days.
Most of the players were young southern farm boys.
Right, right,
Didn't like African Americans.
Right.
They didn't like Jews either.
that's correct. That's what, that was that
There weren't
story.
many Jewish players around.
That's right.
Yeah, not to rain on anyone's parade, there was an article in Scientific American a few years back, probably about 10 years ago, on why there are no more 400 batters.
Right,
And there were more standouts in this golden age of baseball and all sports because the batters, for instance, would face more variable pitcher ability.
right,
Today, you've got people who are there, whether it's the money or the fame or whatever, it's no longer a low physical job, like grave digging.
yeah,
These guys aren't gonna be grave diggers today. Very many of them, most of them are probably college graduates.
it's true.
No.
You know what?
No, not baseball.
Not
No,
baseball.
baseball is a funny sport because in college, the African-American population in college baseball is only like 10%. It's hard to figure out why, but the gifted athletes go to football and basketball and stuff like that. They don't play baseball.
I just like to mention, since we're talking about New York, I grew up in the Detroit area.
Yes.
And was a great fan of the Detroit Tigers. And
Yes.
I still am, and particularly Hank Greenberg.
Yes,
Hank Greenberg came back from the Army in June of 1945.
right,
He was 37 years old, and with tremendous physical effort, he got himself into shape to play that season with the Tigers, and it came to the last day of the season, September the 30th, 1945. The game was played in Old Sportsman's Park in St. Louis. The Tigers were a half game ahead of Washington. It came up to the ninth inning, and they were down 3 runs. Greenberg, the top of the ninth, 3 men on base, and Greenberg hit a grand slam home run to win the pennant that year. It was probably the most exciting moment in baseball that I ever had. And of course, he was a New Yorker.
that's a lecture on its own, so you see Irwin, you can, yes.
Mark, where do you think baseball is in America today compared to football, compared to basketball? It used to be America's pastime. It was
Yeah.
a sport.
Yeah, to the extent that there's 164 games rather than 17 games in football, I don't know. Baseball, I think, is still called the American pastime because of the period of time. It's 6 months worth, probably. Yeah. This gentleman over here, yeah.
I didn't hear, I got here late, but did you talk about Moses and his influence on
No.
how the
Oh,
ball,
Robert Moses, yeah.
Yeah.
how he actually ran out the ball teams,
Yes,
you
yeah.
know, got rid of them? They could
Right.
have stayed,
Yeah.
but he refused to let them have land.
My friend over there read the whole book on Moses, and just a little tidbit on him. He owned Good Humor ice cream, and the only ice cream you can buy on any of the beaches in New York were Good Humor ice cream, so that was just part of it. Yeah,
You know, what we didn't discuss was the
Rush Hodges' announcement of Bobby Thompson's home run. I was in the service then.
yeah.
When he hit the home run, we were jumping up and down on the desk.
Oh, yeah, I heard that live, I did at home, yeah, Jules.
The big thing was the changing of the way ball players were not allowed to go to other teams.
Yes.
You played with the team for your life, your
Right.
entire life. Then we had the lawsuit, the famous lawsuit.
Kurt Flood.
And it opened up baseball completely.
Yeah.
Changed the name,
Right.
changed the game completely.
Right,
So the loyalties that we used to have for the
Right.
Dodgers or the
Right.
Yankees or the
Right.
Giants,
right.
that's out the window.
By the way, there's dancing in the street in the Bronx where I live too, believe it or not, yeah.
I got a Mickey Mantle story. Towards the end of his career, he partied pretty heavily.
Yes,
So he was played every other day.
yes,
So on this particular occasion, bases loaded, ninth inning, The Yankees are behind. Manager says to Mantle, pick up a bat. He swung at the first pitch, nowhere near. He swung at the second, nowhere near. The third one, he hit out of the park. As he came around third base, he said to the third base coach, he said, "You have no idea how difficult that was."
Oh, sure. Cookie ladder, Jetta. I mean, whatever. Yeah.
And to become a Met fan if you lived in the Bronx must have been a great.
Well, let me tell you something, that I live 6 blocks from Yankee Stadium. And most of the people that I was, my friends, were not Yankee fans, they were Giant fans.
Giant fans.
Yeah, it's hard to, but I gotta tell you, I was walking distance of the Polo Grounds also. Walking distance Yankee Stadium and, walking distance.
Coogan's Bluff.
Coogan's Bluff, yeah. Okay, Lowell?
I was at a Phillies game
Yes,
with Don Newcomb pitching,
yes.
and he pitched 17 straight innings. He pitched a
Doubleheader. Pitched a
He won the
doubleheader.
first game, 1-0.
Right,
In the second game, when the eighth inning, it
Yeah.
was 2-1. The Phillies were
Right.
had men on base. They took them out, but they won the second game too. But it was 17 straight innings.
Yes, yeah.
Today, a pitcher, if he pitches more than 3, you're lucky.
his agent would run on the field.
Maybe
and
one
wouldn't-
inning,
yeah.
or one base, one batter.
Yeah,
They
right.
take him out.
All right,
He
Jules.
pitched 17 straight innings.
Yeah.
Two great books you'll like to read. My cousin Jane Levy wrote a book about Sandy Koufax.
I read it.
Living Legend.
I read it,
My cousin's daughter wrote Jane Levy. She
Yeah.
was a sports writer.
yeah,
And the other one is about Mickey Mantle.
uh-huh,
And that's a very good read, too.
yeah. Okay, anybody else? All right, I thank you, and, thank